What would happen if an ordinary beekeeper became the only man with an army hidden inside a wooden box? Li Wei entered the eternal realm with no sword, no magic, and a talent everyone else might have called useless. 7 nights later, more than 20,000 bees would die to keep him alive. Before all of that, Li Wei had simply been standing at his bee farm. Bees buzzed around the hives, birds sang nearby, and his problems were painfully normal. Then the sky darkened without warning. The fertile ground vanished beneath his feet and became a dry wasteland split by deep cracks. Every hive disappeared except one. Li Wei pulled out his phone, but the familiar screen was gone. There was no signal, no normal application, and no way to contact the world he knew. 8 dark icons had replaced everything. Where the time should have been, 2 words appeared. Barren wasteland. Li Wei had read enough fantasy stories to recognize the situation immediately. Somehow he had been dragged into another world. For one ridiculous second, relief almost made him laugh. At least his crushing bank debts could no longer chase him here. Then he remembered Chun Yun. When his business had collapsed, she had handed him every bit of her savings. She had even drawn a tiny smiling face on the note. The thought that he might never see her again erased his brief relief. Li Wei forced that pain down because grief could not give him water. His phone showed health, hunger, thirst, stamina, and mental energy. It also showed his talent, Beekeeper. He could form a bond with a queen bee and control her hive. That was all. There was no legendary sword inheritance waiting for him. There was no mysterious voice promising to turn him into a god. Even his physical strength was pathetic. Every application repeated the same initial instruction. Place a shelter? Li Wei looked across the exposed wasteland and refused. Building in the open without water or cover felt like choosing a grave in advance. Then a tiny frightened voice entered his mind. It called him its king. Li Wei froze beside the remaining hive. The queen bee was speaking directly into his thoughts. She told him the colony was afraid. More importantly, the bees were surrounded by a land with no flowers. Without nectar, the hive would starve. Li Wei realized his supposedly weak talent had already changed. He could understand his queen. That did not solve their hunger, but it gave him thousands of tiny eyes. Li Wei lifted the heavy hive and started walking toward distant trees. His arms quickly burned under the weight. Yet gambling when the situation looked hopeless was something he understood very well. Before he reached the trees, his phone chimed. A dark red notification covered the screen. Someone named Chun Yun was inviting him to explore the eternal realm together. Li Wei did not hesitate. He accepted immediately. The wasteland blurred into streaks of darkness and light. Warm wind touched his face when his vision returned. Green grass spread beneath his feet. Trees stood in the distance. Compared with the dead wasteland, the place looked like paradise. Then Li Wei saw the person standing only a few meters away. Chun Yun still wore her gray tracksuit. Her competition bow rested in her hand. The moment she recognized him, the bow dropped. She ran straight into his arms. Chun Yun said nothing. Her tears soaking through his shirt were enough. Li Wei gently patted her back and told her they were together now. She immediately pulled away and wiped her face. Chun Yun claimed sand had gotten into her eyes. Li Wei did not expose the obvious lie. Some feelings between them had never needed explanations. When Li Wei checked her attributes, his expression changed. Chun Yun's overall strength was 23. His was only 5. Her purple talent was even more shocking. She could summon someone emotionally close to her into the eternal realm. The price was 50 points of mental energy permanently lost. Chun Yun had paid that price without hesitation. She had sacrificed part of her mind simply to bring Li Wei to her side. Her competition bow had also crossed worlds with her. The weapon automatically formed energy arrows. Li Wei silently understood how narrowly he had escaped the wasteland. Chun Yun's region was called Greenfield Grove. They belonged to different regional chat groups, but the survival systems worked similarly. Their first priority remained shelter. Chun Yun pointed toward the forest. Li Wei picked up the beehive again. The walk was miserable. Sweat soaked his clothes and his arms trembled. Chun Yun never mocked him. She merely slowed her pace without saying why. At the forest edge, cool shade replaced the open sunlight. Unfortunately, they found no water. There was no high ground either. Then Li Wei noticed one enormous tree standing alone in a clearing. Its bark was nearly black. Halfway up the trunk, natural lines formed something disturbingly similar to a human face. The wooden face looked trapped in pain. Chun Yun disliked the tree immediately. Li Wei stared longer. The system had told them to place a shelter. It had never said the shelter needed to stand on the ground. He wondered whether they could place it inside the tree. Chun Yun trusted his idea and confirmed the location. The tree began to shake. Its massive trunk swelled with violent creaks. Bark twisted as if something beneath it were taking a breath after centuries. A doorway slowly formed. At the same time, the painful face on the trunk seemed to relax. Then it disappeared. Li Wei noticed that detail. He did not understand it, and the Eternal Realm offered no explanation. Their new shelter was a round wooden chamber. The interior covered roughly 20 square meters. Rough walls surrounded a thick central pillar. It looked primitive. The instant Li Wei stepped inside, however, pressure vanished from his mind. His exhausted body also became lighter. The treehouse naturally restored stamina and mental energy. Their shelter was blue quality, even among the unknown rules of this world that clearly meant something. Chunyun opened the shelter controls. Without asking for reassurance, she gave Li Wei complete permission. He accepted without giving a long speech. Their trust had existed long before the Eternal Realm. Placing the shelter unlocked the remaining phone applications. A simple fire pit and a basic workbench became available. Both required wood and stone. Li Wei immediately approached the hive. Through his mental link, he ordered the queen to send scouts. About 5,000 worker bees poured into the forest. Their senses were limited, but they could distinguish food from danger. For Li Wei, that was already better than wandering blindly. Chunyun discovered a storage box inside the shelter. The apparently small container held far more space than expected. Inside were a stone axe and a stone pickaxe. They also found breadfruit and coconuts. The two survivors finally sat down. Soft, white breadfruit filled their mouths with badly needed food. Cool coconut water eased their thirst. They wanted to devour everything. Instead, they stopped after half a fruit each and saved the rest. Survival already demanded discipline. The marketplace application allowed distant survivors to exchange items. Li Wei also discovered a 15-slot storage space. His expression went blank. He had carried the beehive through the forest with his bare arms for no reason. Chunyun did not let him forget that mistake. Their map showed only places they had personally explored. Most of the world remained black. Li Wei decided they needed a fire before sunset. At that moment, thousands of notifications finally caught their attention. The regional chats had awakened. 100,000 survivors filled each channel. Panic dominated almost every message. People searched for relatives. One unfortunate survivor had crossed worlds with an electric cooking pot. Someone else was already trying to flirt. Amid the chaos, one message stood out. Yang Tong, a former military commander, had posted a simple survival guide. Stay calm, secure food and water, create fire before darkness, and explore carefully. Yang Tong had spent precious energy to warn complete strangers. Li Wei remembered his name. Outside, returning bees carried news of creatures active to the north. The sun was still high, but the forest already seemed less friendly. Li Wei picked up the stone axe while Chunyun raised her bow. Their first day of survival had finally begun. At the brighter edge of the forest, Li Wei selected a medium-sized tree. His first axe swing barely damaged the bark. 15 exhausting minutes passed before the trunk finally crashed down. The system absorbed the entire tree into his storage. One complete tree became 1 unit of Tier 1 wood. Li Wei stared at the tiny inventory icon with mixed admiration and annoyance. Chunyun searched nearby for stone. She also discovered fiber grass that could become rope with the correct tool. A sudden rustle cut through the quiet. Chunyun crouched instantly. An energy arrow formed against her bowstring. She released. A fat gray rabbit died before Li Wei even located it. He praised her shot. Chunyun raised her chin and acted as though the result had been obvious. They also spotted a raven. The system described the bird as a creature capable of being tamed for scouting. Li Wei stored that information for later. For a brief moment, they rested beneath a tree. Warm sunlight crossed the grass. Chunyun leaned against Li Wei's shoulder. A worker bee landed on his collar. Its tiny legs tickled his skin. Surrounded by an alien world, the familiar buzzing strangely comforted him. Chunyun kissed his cheek. For several seconds, survival stopped feeling impossible. Then Li Wei returned to chopping. His stamina fell. His palms hurt. He continued because his weak body frightened him more than exhaustion. Later, Chunyun found a hidden berry bush. Bright red fruit offered sweetness and moisture. The couple shared these berries while sitting in the grass. An agitated bee suddenly circled Li Wei's head. Through the bond, he understood that it wanted to guide him. They followed the insect to an old wooden box buried beneath weeds. It was a treasure chest. Inside were blueprints for a chair and a bed. They also received a wooden stick that could serve as a weapon. Nothing was legendary. In the Eternal Realm, usefulness mattered more than glory. Li Wei and Chunyun gathered resources for the rest of the afternoon. Stone proved painfully slow to collect. Many small rocks were needed before the system counted 1 usable unit. Their arms gradually weakened. Then the sunlight began to fade. The forest changed before darkness even arrived. Birds stopped calling. Insects became silent. A cold sensation crawled over Li Wei's skin. It felt like something was observing them from behind every tree. Lai Wei checked his phone. His mental energy was already draining. Chunyun saw his face and immediately understood. They abandoned the remaining resources. On the way home, a black shape slid behind a tree. Chunyun saw it. Lai Wei saw it too. His insight application found nothing. The shadow left no trace. They practically ran toward the treehouse. Chunyun still killed another rabbit on the way through pure archer instinct. Only after the wooden door slammed shut did Li Wei breathe properly. The shelter's calming effect gradually weakened the fear. His mental energy had fallen to 129 out of 200. Chunyun had dropped even lower. Her permanent sacrifice of 50 points had left her far more vulnerable. Li Wei finally understood the first law of night. Darkness itself was dangerous. The fire pit could no longer wait. Stones assembled into a perfect circle. Wood ignited without a spark. Orange flames rose in the center of the room. The oppressive dread disappeared almost immediately. Fire was not merely for cooking. It was a shield for the mind. The beehive rested quietly in one corner. Across the room, invisible power assembled their workbench. Chunyun cleaned the rabbits using the crude stone axe. They saved organs and waste in case the living tree needed fertilizer. One rabbit slowly roasted beside the flames. Li Wei opened the regional chat. The survivor count had already fallen. Nearly 900 people had disappeared after nightfall. Messages arrived faster than he could read. Survivors heard scratching against wooden walls. Others described heavy impacts against shelter doors. One man had failed to collect enough stone for a fire pit. He sat in complete darkness listening to something breathe outside. Then Yang Tong posted again. Shadow creatures hunted during the dark. Fire repelled them. Fear caused mental energy to drain faster. When someone's mind weakened far enough, the creatures noticed that person more easily. Deep sleep could hide a survivor's mental presence. A destroyed shelter meant death. Li Wei wondered how Yang Tong had learned so much. Perhaps others had died to provide those answers. Chunyun shared the warning in her own regional group. Desperate strangers immediately thanked her. She stopped replying after the necessary information was delivered. Every message consumed energy. Kindness without discipline could kill the person trying to help. The smell of roasted rabbit finally filled the treehouse. They ate tough, bland meat beside the fire. Breadfruit and coconut water disappeared with it. Their plan to ration perfectly lasted less than one hungry evening. While Chunyun ate, Li Wei studied the marketplace. Weapons, medicine, armor, and stone were suddenly valuable. He noticed a birdcage blueprint. The raven description from earlier immediately returned to his mind. Unfortunately, they owned nothing valuable enough to trade for it. Another listing showed an injured man offering a stone dagger for medicine. The offer vanished almost instantly. Someone else had made the trade first. Li Wei and Chunyun exchanged a silent look. In this world, a small wound could become a death sentence. Chunyun suggested trading their extra rabbit for a wooden shield. Li Wei agreed. The shield was simple but solid. Li Wei held it with his wooden stick and jokingly presented himself as her knight. Chunyun actually laughed. Their two marketplaces also revealed an important pattern. Lai Wei's harsh wasteland channel contained more weapons and strange blueprints. Chunyun's greener region offered more food and household items. Different regions produced different opportunities. Li Wei carved ugly bowls and chopsticks from branches. Chunyun openly mocked his craftsmanship. He reminded her that ugly bowls could still hold water. Eventually, she fell asleep on the wooden floor. Li Wei remained awake until the workbench finished. Basic axes, pickaxes, shovels, and torches appeared in its menu. Most required more stone than they owned. He managed to create 3 torches. Then he lay beside Chunyun and wrapped one arm around her. Exhaustion dragged him into sleep. Beyond the walls, strange shadows drifted through the night. None approached the living tree. Morning arrived with the smell of reheated rabbit. Chunyun had awakened first and restored the fire. Li Wei expected his arms to be ruined from chopping. Instead, the treehouse's recovery effect had nearly removed the pain. The queen bee delivered even better news. Around 2,000 new workers were preparing to hatch. Li Wei expanded the hive's scouting range. The bees could search almost 10 kilometers from him. His talent still looked unimpressive on a screen. In practice, he possessed an intelligence network with wings. His shield and stick had raised his displayed combat power. He proudly told Chunyun he had caught up. She showed him her own improved number. Chunyun was already ahead again. Li Wei quietly decided to exercise harder. They explored south into the deeper forest. Trees became wider and older. Massive roots twisted across the ground. Poisonous mushrooms grew beneath fallen trunks. A wolf howled somewhere beyond their sight. Blackbirds watched from a nest overhead. Li Wei wanted them, but he still lacked a cage. Then the couple found a huge patch of tough vines. Li Wei started harvesting. The chopping noise frightened the birds. A bad feeling struck him. 4 wolves burst from the undergrowth. Each had an overall strength of 20. Chunyun fired first. Her arrow killed the nearest wolf instantly. The largest attacker slammed into Li Wei's shield. His entire arm went numb. Another wolf attempted to circle behind him. Chunyun put an arrow through its eye. Li Wei smashed his stick against the first wolf. Bones cracked beneath the wood. The fourth predator rushed Chunyun while she aimed. Li Wei charged across its path and struck it with his shield. Chunyun crippled its leg. Li Wei finished the creature at close range. 4 wolves lay dead. His heart hammered so violently that he almost felt sick. Both survivors had scratches. Both were alive. Li Wei knew he would have died alone. They drained blood from the bodies and stored the carcasses. The act was disgusting. Hunger made disgust less important. Deeper in the forest, enormous paw prints appeared in soft mud. Nearby droppings were almost the size of a human head. Li Wei immediately ordered a retreat. Knowing when not to fight was another survival skill. They returned with wolf meat, blood vines, and experience. They still had no reliable water source. Their final coconut was disappearing. Chunyun's lips were already dry and cracked. The queen bee reported a large flower field to the northeast. She also revealed another treasure chest beneath a dead tree. Chunyun roasted clotted wolf blood over the fire. The flavor was salty, metallic, and unpleasant. It still provided moisture and nutrition. Li Wei tried weaving a bird trap from vines. His only training came from short videos he had watched in his old world. The first basket was crooked. Several gaps looked much too large. Chunyun openly questioned whether it could trap anything. Li Wei answered with more confidence than evidence. He placed meat beneath the basket as bait. The wolves were butchered, and thin strips of meat hung above the fire. Their bodies contained very little fat. Even predators struggled to survive here. The treasure chest discovered by the bees contained a farmland blueprint. It also held green-quality mineral salt. After days of bland meat, the white crystals looked more precious than gold. Unfortunately, farmland required an upgraded shelter. The upgrade demanded 100 units of wood. Li Wei and Chunyun returned to chopping. Swing after swing sent chips across the ground. Their clothes became soaked with sweat. On the way home, one vine basket had collapsed. Something inside flapped furiously. Li Wei grabbed a crow. A second trap held another. His ugly baskets had actually worked. He returned with feathers stuck to his hair. Chunyun laughed until her face hurt. Their amusement disappeared when they drank the final coconut water. Water had become a life-or-death problem. Chunyun sprinkled mineral salt over roasted wolf organs. The improvement was unbelievable. Liver, kidneys, and heart became genuinely enjoyable. For the first time since arriving, a meal left them satisfied. Then Li Wei received a friend request from Zhang Han. Zhang Han owned the birdcage blueprint. He thought 4 jin of wolf meat was too little. Li Wei argued that a blueprint could not fill an empty stomach. He nearly increased his offer. Chunyun silently shook her head. Li Wei held firm. Zhang Han accepted. 4 jin of meat purchased the blueprint that would change Li Wei's economy. The first crafted cage had a taming function. A bird fed twice daily for 2 days would become obedient. Afterward, the creature could scout and report twice each day. Chunyun wanted to begin selling immediately. Li Wei told her to wait until night. Trapped survivors would spend more time browsing the market after darkness. More customers meant stronger offers. His first cage sold instantly for 20 units of stone. The next listing attracted dozens of offers. A survivor named Luo Yao proposed a broken water element fragment. The item was blue quality. Li Wei still asked him to add water. Luo Yao agreed without hesitation. The trade gave Li Wei both the fragment and precious creek water. Luo Yao then invited him into a private resource group. The owner was Yang Tong. The military commander personally welcomed Li Wei. He even promised to help locate living wood. Li Wei had entered the eternal realm as a weak beekeeper. 2 days later, useful people were beginning to remember his name. Chunyun told him the reason was simple. Li Wei created things survivors genuinely needed. That evening, he crafted new stone tools. He also wove 10 bird traps. The pressure of constant survival briefly softened when the couple held each other. Li Wei later noticed that his mental energy had increased. Positive emotions could restore the mind. The eternal realm measured despair. Apparently, it also recognized happiness. Heavy rain struck during the night. Li Wei and Chunyun rushed outside with every bowl and basin they owned. Chunyun bought more wooden basins before water prices could react. Rain filled them. Their water crisis disappeared almost overnight. Li Wei held the broken water fragment beneath the rain. Droplets bent towards the blue shard. A tiny whirlpool briefly formed. The queen bee suddenly sent a wave of intense desire through their bond. She wanted the fragment. Li Wei brought it to the hive. The queen touched it with her antennae. Something subtle changed in their connection. Li Wei could not identify the effect. He allowed her to keep it. A more immediate problem appeared in the shelter interface. The living tree's fertility was dropping by 5 points every day. If the soil died, their shelter could weaken with it. Li Wei dug a shallow compost pit behind the tree. Rabbit organs, wolf? Remains blood, ash, leaves, and soil went inside. The smell was terrible. The treehouse did not care about appearances. Li Wei also began exercising whenever rain kept them indoors. Push-ups exposed how weak years of office work had made him. 15 repetitions nearly destroyed his arms. He continued. A little more strength could decide whether a claw reached his throat. After the rain, Li Wei and Chun Yun placed 10 bird traps along the forest edge. Then they resumed their pursuit of 100 units of wood. Their axes fell in a steady rhythm. A dog bark suddenly shattered the pattern. Both survivors pressed against an oak and raised their weapons. A golden retriever burst through the bushes. A young man with glasses followed. He was covered in mud. His name was Wang Xing. The instant he saw people, excitement made him trip over his own feet. He fell face first into the mud. His dog Duodu barked beside him. The animal looked less threatening than embarrassed for its owner. Wang Xing recognized Chun Yun from her earlier survival warning. He believed her message had saved his life. His talent allowed him to communicate with dogs. Duo could scout and locate food. Wang Xing asked to join them. Li Wei felt sympathy. He still refused. Their shelter was too small. Their food supply was unstable. Accepting another person out of emotion could endanger everyone. Wang Xing's face fell. Li Wei offered friendship contact instead. Before the young man left, Li Wei gave him one serious warning. Never reveal a shelter location to strangers. In the Eternal Realm, bad people could become more dangerous than wolves. Wang Xing left with Duo. Li Wei immediately ordered bees to watch the direction he had taken. Trust did not require blindness. By afternoon, the couple had collected 58 units of wood. Their traps had also caught 5 crows. The treehouse became painfully crowded. Dried meat hung above the fire. Water basins covered one wall. The beehive occupied a corner. 5 angry crows filled the remaining space with noise. Li Wei began producing cages. A message from Zhou Li offered 2 pieces of living wood for 1. Li Wei accepted as soon as the cage finished. The living wood felt warm. Faint patterns in the grain resembled tiny faces. The material reminded Li Wei of the painful face once visible on their shelter tree. He noticed the similarity. Again, no explanation appeared. The remaining cages attracted extraordinary trades. Li Wei obtained a blue obsidian battle blade. Its durability was poor, but its sharpness was terrifying. Another cage purchased a berry drink recipe. Yang Tong privately offered green bone leg guards. The armor increased strength and frightened weaker creatures. Yang Tong had made his offer privately, so Li Wei could reject it without public pressure. That small act made Li Wei respect the commander even more. Li Wei accepted. He strapped the guards around his legs. Then he lifted the obsidian blade. Its dark edge whispered through the air. For the first time, Li Wei held a weapon capable of truly killing monsters. At sunrise, their collected wood finally reached 100 units. Chun Yun confirmed the shelter upgrade. Green light spread through the tree's bark. The transformation required 5 hours. While waiting, they carefully dug up the berry bush they had discovered earlier. The work hurt Li Wei's back more than fighting the wolves. Their traps caught additional crows. Li Wei discovered live creatures could survive inside storage. The birds emerged confused but unharmed. When the couple returned, their shelter was almost unrecognizable. The trunk had grown thicker and healthier. Fresh leaves had appeared on the branches. The tree stood nearly 30 meters tall. Interior space had more than doubled. Durability reached 500. Energy capacity increased. The recovery effect became stronger. Their blue-quality shelter was significantly better than ordinary upgraded shelters. An external building area also unlocked. So did a barricade blueprint. Li Wei's disgusting compost experiment had raised fertility slightly. Chun Yun established regular fertilizer trades with Chi Muyao. The woman lived near bird flocks and had a steady supply of droppings. Li Wei also sent Wang Xing instructions for trapping and selling crows. Chun Yun asked why he was helping a potential competitor. Li Wei reminded her that Wang Xing belonged to a different marketplace. More importantly, helping someone survive cost them almost nothing. He did not want the Eternal Realm to strip away their humanity. Their first farmland plot formed in front of the treehouse. Energy sank into a square of dark soil. Li Wei used his growing birdcage business to purchase equipment. A special stone cooking pot could create beneficial effects in food. A green wooden bed improved recovery. Herbal bandages gave them emergency treatment. A wooden breastplate protected Li Wei's chest. They also obtained a stone slab grilling recipe. That night, Li Wei and Chun Yun slept on a real bed. Fresh wood smelled almost luxurious, yet Li Wei could not completely relax. Shadow creatures still moved beyond the fire every night. Hundreds of survivors had already died. He doubted the darkness would remain passive forever. The next morning they planted the berry bush. Fertilizer surrounded its roots. The shelter's increasing hunger for nutrients worried Li Wei. Depending on one fertilizer supplier was dangerous. In this world, any trade partner could disappear from the survivor count overnight. Chunyun called him to eat. Thick wolf meat sizzled inside the special stone pot. The meat was crisp outside and juicy within. More importantly, the meal increased exercise effectiveness. Li Wei's obsession with training immediately became stronger. Then the queen bee delivered an urgent report. Her scouts had discovered living wood deep inside the forest. Something powerful guarded the area. The bees were too frightened to approach. Li Wei and Chunyun considered leaving it alone. The resource would not move. The unknown creature might. They decided observation was safer than future ignorance. Li Wei equipped his shield obsidian blade leg guards and breastplate. Chunyun carried her bow. They packed bandages, food, water, and fire supplies. A marked worker bee guided them deeper. Ancient trees blocked the sky. Fallen leaves softened every footstep. The deeper they traveled, the quieter the forest became. They found strange purple-red mushrooms capable of causing hallucinations. Li Wei stored them instead of eating them. Eventually, even the insects disappeared. The guide bee landed on his shoulder. Its tiny body trembled. Li Wei and Chunyun hid behind a thick trunk. The clearing ahead contained a normal tree rich in living wood. Beside it stood a deathly white nest almost 4 meters tall. The structure resembled a fallen egg. Rotting flesh covered the ground. Some remains were old. Others were disturbingly fresh. Li Wei's mental energy began draining merely from being nearby. Inside identified a blue-quality spider nest. 20 venomous spiders lived inside. The structure slowed every non-spider creature around it by 40%. Worse, the nest could evolve into something stronger. Li Wei decided to retreat immediately. One step later, his calf touched a thin strand. Sticky spider silk vibrated beneath his skin. The tripwire had been triggered. 10 black spiders the size of basketballs erupted from the nest. The stagnation effect hit. Li Wei's legs felt buried in mud. Running became impossible. He ordered Chunyun to climb a nearby tree using their prepared vine ladder. Even climbing became painfully slow. The spiders closed from 10 meters to 5. Li Wei abandoned the ladder. His shield rose. The obsidian blade came free. 3 spiders jumped at his legs. He blocked low and slashed upward. 2 spiders split apart. The blade passed through their bodies with almost no resistance. A 3rd spider bit his ankle. Its fangs struck the bone leg guards. The grinding sound made Li Wei's blood run cold. An energy arrow suddenly punched through the creature. The same shot killed another spider behind it. Chunyun had reached a firing position. From the tree, she became terrifying. Arrows struck with mechanical precision. Spiders dropped from the trunk. The surviving creatures attempted to retreat. Chunyun continued shooting. Only one escaped into the nest. 9 spiders lay dead. The entire clash had taken only minutes. Li Wei clung to the ladder and struggled to breathe. Chunyun's arms shook from repeated shots. The spiders had an overall strength of 30. Their nerve venom could paralyze prey. Their silk could create traps. Without the obsidian blade, Li Wei would have died. Without Chunyun's accuracy, he would have died. Without the ladder, both of them might have died. 11 spiders remained inside. Li Wei wanted to leave. Then Chunyun noticed green leaves behind the nest. A small plant had been wrapped in spider silk. 3 leaves at its crown carried faint golden veins. Inside identified a 10-year-old purple mandrake grass. Pure energy filled the living root. It could only be safely harvested after dusk. Eating it raw could cause unpredictable consequences. The spiders were almost certainly guarding it. Li Wei threw a stone at the nest. All 11 surviving spiders rushed outside. They stopped beneath the tree. Instead of mindlessly attacking, they waited. The creatures had learned. Li Wei developed another plan. He would descend as bait. Chunyun would shoot from above. She barely had time to object before he climbed down. The moment his feet touched the ground, the tripwires vibrated. 11 spiders surged toward him like a black wave. Chunyun's first arrow shattered their formation. Li Wei moved sideways to prevent complete encirclement. His blade cut 3 spiders in one sweeping motion. The shield knocked back 2 more. His return swing killed them. The final charging spider opened its mouth. Chunyun fired directly through it. Silence returned to the clearing. The spider nest was empty. Li Wei harvested venom silk glands and other materials. Spider meat smelled so awful that even hunger could not tempt him. The system warned that improper consumption might cause mutation. He stored the bodies for fertilizer instead. The empty nest itself still moved when touched. Insight insisted it was a structure rather than a creature. That answer did not make Li Wei feel better. They had to wait until evening for the mandrake. Until then, Li Wei decided to dismantle the nest. It became the most disgusting work of his life. Sticky silk trapped the blade. Thick fluid leaked from every axe wound. Inside were cocoons filled with partially dissolved remains. Yellow-green liquid covered melted flesh. Li Wei and Chunyun forced themselves to continue. 40 units of spider silk rewarded the effort. Then Chunyun screamed. A human cocoon lay beneath the final layers. The man's waxy skin had already begun to break down. Terror remained frozen on his face. He had been a survivor. He had died only days earlier. Victory vanished from Li Wei's thoughts. This was the other possible ending to every expedition. A person could simply disappear from the chat count. His body could rot inside a monster's nest without anyone knowing his name. Chunyun shook beside Li Wei. He wrapped an arm around her. They could remember the dead man. Then they had to continue living. Inside the cocoon, they found a clay flower pot. They also recovered the survivor's phone. The system called it a civilization gift. A dead survivor's phone could be absorbed by another. The blue flower pot carried a special mutation effect. Plants grown inside could develop thorns and produce special materials. Li Wei immediately understood the dead man's mistake. He had probably discovered the mandrake. Purple quality had blinded him to the danger. He had come alone. The spiders had killed him. Li Wei and Chunyun buried the stranger beneath a large tree. They knew neither his name nor his story. A few stones marked the grave. Wind passing through the leaves became his only funeral sound. The nearby living wood tree gave them 2 valuable pieces of material. By evening, Chunyun's mental energy had fallen dangerously low. Dizziness already affected her. The mandrake suddenly began glowing. Purple light pulsed around it like slow breathing. Golden veins flowed across the leaves. A fresh, sweet scent entered the clearing. Li Wei positioned a basket above the plant. He reached toward the soil. The root jumped free by itself. It looked like a tiny white radish with legs that did not quite exist. Then it screamed like a crying baby. Li Wei grabbed it before surprise could become hesitation. The mandrake thrashed violently. He shoved it into storage with soil. Chunyun whispered that she had seen the black shadow again. Li Wei gripped her cold hand. They hurried toward home. Dusk thickened around them. Chunyun's breathing became irregular. Trees blurred at the edges of her vision. Her gaze lost focus. The permanent 50-point loss from summoning Li Wei was showing its true cost. Her mental energy dropped below 90. Li Wei kept talking. He described warm soup beside their fire. He reminded her of winters they still had to survive together. He gave her small, ordinary images to hold instead of fear. Chunyun stumbled. Li Wei supported most of her weight. The treehouse finally became visible between the trunks. Then the shadow appeared. It emerged directly from the darkness beneath an oak. The thing had no clear body. It resembled smoke ink and an insect-shaped void at the same time. Li Wei held Chunyun with one arm and raised his obsidian blade with the other. The shadow stopped around 20 meters away. It had no eyes. Li Wei still felt it looking directly at his face. Neither side moved. Then the creature dissolved into the air. Li Wei's palm was soaked with sweat. He dragged Chunyun through the final distance. They crashed into the shelter and slammed the door. Li Wei fed the fire. Orange light filled the room. The gray haze in Chunyun's vision receded. Her trembling slowly stopped. For several minutes, the couple sat silently beside the flames. Li Wei finally admitted something painful. They had behaved almost exactly like the survivor in the spider nest. They knew Chunyun's mental energy was low. They knew dusk was approaching. They still stayed for a purple resource. One victory had made them overconfident. The Eternal Realm had nearly collected payment. Chunyun realized low mental energy did more than create a number on a screen. It damaged perception. It weakened judgment. Fear then accelerated the decline. That evening established a rule between them. Survival came before greed. Near the workbench, the captured mandrake circled Li Wei's shoes. The tiny creature chirped in a language he could not understand. Warmth from the fire quickly calmed it. Li Wei used teasing and affection to pull Chunyun away from her lingering fear. Her tired expression gradually softened. They discussed food. Only around 25 pounds of dried wolf meat remained. Honey could provide emergency carbohydrates, but it was not a complete diet. Li Wei decided they needed grain. A second farmland plot became necessary. They also agreed to stockpile fertilizer. The growing treehouse consumed nutrients quickly. Every future farm would consume more. That night, Li Wei used the remaining shelter energy carefully. He opened a second field. He crafted replacement axes. A final birdcage purchased 20 grain seeds. Morning found Chunyun looking healthier. Li Wei felt completely drained. Then he noticed the mandrake was missing. Chunyun pointed toward the blue flower pot. A round white head and 3 green leaves protruded from the soil. The creature had planted itself. The flower pot's mutation effect had already changed it. Tiny hard bumps formed along the leaves. Insight renamed it Thorny Mandrake. The purple plant still contained concentrated magical essence. Now it was gradually mutating. Li Wei fertilized and watered the pot. The little creature appeared perfectly satisfied. Then he finally examined the dead survivor's phone. He brought it close to his own device. The civilization gift began to disappear. Its shell turned transparent from the edges inward. Within seconds, nothing remained. Li Wei received the right to upgrade one application. After discussing the choices with Chun Yun, he upgraded his attribute interface. The new function was not what he expected. A tab labeled Follower appeared. Li Wei could invite one wanderer to become his follower. The details resembled a binding contract. Chun Yun quietly described it as almost a slave agreement. Neither of them liked the idea. They left the function unused. The Eternal Realm was cruel enough to create circumstances where they might reconsider someday. Outside, Li Wei planted the 20 grain seeds. Their spacing was generous because he owned so few. The transplanted berry bush had survived. Green leaves stood upright again. The sight brought more relief than any weapon. Food growing beside the shelter meant a future. Li Wei and Chun Yun returned to their crow traps. While transferring a frightened bird, Chun Yun raised an important question. Why did ordinary animals survive the shadow creatures at night? Li Wei considered their experience. He suspected the shadows hunted beings with strong mental activity. Humans possessed complex awareness. In the darkness, perhaps their minds burned like torches. Ordinary animals might resemble background noise. Shelters could be hiding mental signals rather than merely stopping claws. The theory was unproven. It explained too much to ignore. The couple caught 18 crows that day. They also gathered 122 units of wood. The cost was severe exhaustion. Li Wei's stamina dropped near half. His legs felt filled with lead. Breathing became difficult even while sitting. Food and water offered only brief relief. He understood that zero stamina might mean complete physical failure. Chun Yun still found peace in ordinary labor. Chopping, farming, and catching birds exhausted them. At least those tasks did not chase them through darkness. Li Wei opened his regional chat. Many once active names had gone silent. Nearly 27,000 survivors had disappeared from his harsher region in 6 days. Every missing number represented a shelter that might never open again. Chun Yun's greener region had lost far fewer. Environmental differences were brutally shaping survival rates. Li Wei thought about the barren wasteland. Without Chun Yun's sacrifice, he might already be one of the vanished names. Then Yang Tong sent an emergency message to the private resource group. The 7th night would bring gray fog across every region. Unknown monsters would emerge inside it. They would deliberately attack survivors and shelters. Yang Tong ordered everyone to acquire weapons, armor, medicine, and defensive structures. The survival test was coming. Li Wei and Chun Yun's exhaustion vanished beneath a new kind of pressure. They had less than a day to prepare. Li Wei attacked the marketplace before prices could explode. A green floral crown blueprint could slowly restore mental energy. He purchased it. A stone arrow mold unlocked reliable physical ammunition. He bought that too. Lightweight leather armor went to Chun Yun. An oak shield replaced Li Wei's weaker defense. A heavy wolf fang club became his backup weapon. The obsidian blade was sharp, but its poor durability terrified him. Then Li Wei discovered a green simple watchtower blueprint. Its eagle-eye trait increased viewing distance and visual tracking. The structure seemed created specifically for Chun Yun. The seller demanded 3 bird cages. Li Wei accepted the painful price. Half an hour later, the watchtower blueprint entered his storage. Yang Tong publicly warned Li Wei's regional channel. Panic detonated. Weapons disappeared from listings. Armor prices doubled. Survivors offered food for defensive equipment. The market changed faster than Li Wei could refresh the screen. His brief golden age of buying expensive items with cages had ended. Chun Yun asked whether they should warn her own region. Doing so would also destroy their purchasing advantage there. Li Wei chose to warn them. A market advantage was not worth thousands of avoidable deaths. Chun Yun sent a condensed version of Yang Tong's information. Her regional chat immediately divided. Some survivors thanked her. Others prepared their shelters. Zhang Jiajia publicly mocked the warning. He argued that food was the real danger. A supporter quickly praised him. Then Zhang revealed his purple glutton talent. He could eat twice as much store energy as fat increased defense and burn fat to recover. Zhang announced the creation of his own feast group. Li Wei finally understood the hostility. Chun Yun had successfully warned the region once before. If the fog attack proved real, her reputation would become overwhelming. Zhang wanted followers. He needed to weaken her credibility before the event. The conflict was no longer a disagreement about survival. It was an early struggle for influence. Li Wei ignored him. Monsters would settle the argument by morning. Chunyun found 20 handmade incendiary jars on the market. The weapons required separate ignition after being thrown. They were crude. They were also the only wide-area weapon the couple could afford. Li Wei bought them. They spent the remaining daylight transforming their home into a battlefield. Wooden barricades surrounded the most vulnerable approaches. Sharp stakes faced outward. Pits were dug and filled with spikes. A narrow entrance deliberately offered the easiest path. Li Wei wanted the monsters to choose exactly where to attack. The watchtower rose beside the shelter. Chunyun climbed to its firing platform. Torches, arrows, incendiary jars, weapons, and bandages were placed within reach. Li Wei crafted a flower crown and gave it to Chunyun. She laughed at the sight of him arranging flowers in the middle of an approaching apocalypse. Yet the crown's calming effect mattered. As sunset approached, Li Wei checked every barrier one final time. The queen bee waited inside her hive. Tens of thousands of workers buzzed around her. Then gray fog began to swallow the forest. The mist rolled between the trees like a living wall. Li Wei had feared the shadow creatures would attack with the monsters. Strangely, their suffocating mental pressure disappeared. The fog seemed to have driven the shadows away or replaced them. Hellish difficulty had merely become hard. Li Wei stood below the watchtower with his weapons ready. Chunyun held her bow at full tension above him. A warning entered their minds. Then an ancient howl traveled through the fog. The first creature crossed into the firelight. Gray-black fur carried rolling mist. Green eyes glowed like ghost flames. It was a green-quality mist wolf, with an overall strength of 30. Fog concealment made the predator faster and quieter inside the mist. The wolf charged. Li Wei did not move. The monster reached the hidden pit. Its body vanished downward. Wooden spikes punched through its chest and abdomen. The first trap had worked. A second wolf arrived. Then a third. Both fell. Li Wei's brief relief died when more shadows emerged. Wolves rushed over the bodies of their own pack. Their dead slowly filled the trap. Li Wei threw his first incendiary jar. Oil covered the wolves. Nothing happened. He suddenly remembered the weapon needed a flame. Li Wei flicked a dying ember into the spilled oil. Fire exploded across the ground. Orange light pushed back the fog. That light revealed nearly 100 pairs of green eyes. Wolves surrounded the entire shelter. Behind them stood a much larger shadow. The pack attacked the barricades from every direction. Wolves threw their bodies against stakes. Some attempted to jump over. Many impaled themselves. Then the distant leader howled. The entire attack changed. Ordinary wolves stopped behaving like wild animals. They began obeying commands. Burning wolves deliberately rolled across the flames. Charred bodies smothered the fire. Others climbed over the dead. Li Wei threw more incendiary jars. The flames expanded. The pack continued coming. One burning wolf broke through and attacked the watchtower. Chunyun placed an arrow directly through its mouth. More creatures appeared behind it. Li Wei realized he could not remain above. He ordered Chunyun to clear every wolf entering the defenses. Then he descended. A wolf waited below the tower. Li Wei jumped the final distance. His wolf fang club smashed into the side of its head. Bone cracked. Li Wei rolled across the ground and immediately drew the obsidian blade. Chunyun's arrows fell from above with brutal accuracy. Poison-coated shots weakened wolves before they reached Li Wei. His oak shield intercepted claws. The obsidian blade opened bellies and throats. Blood covered his armor. Chunyun threw the remaining incendiary jars farther from the shelter. A new circle of fire expanded. Then the wolf pack divided. The enormous creature behind them finally approached. It was more than twice the size of an ordinary wolf. Thick gray fur covered muscles built like armor. Dark purple eyes contained swirling mist. Insight identified a purple fog mountain wolf. Its overall strength was 99. Toughness made its body exceptionally difficult to damage. Wolfpack command increased the aggression, pain tolerance, and coordination of every nearby wolf. This creature had transformed a pack into an army. Li Wei understood the real battle was only beginning. The mountain wolf moved. Its enormous body smashed through part of the barricade. A gap opened in their defensive line. Li Wei ordered Chunyun to focus on the remaining ordinary wolves. He would take the leader. At the same time, he sent one command through his bond with the queen. The hive answered with a growing roar. More than 20,000 worker bees poured from the treehouse. They formed a dark cloud above the firelight. Then the swarm attacked. Bees targeted eyes, noses, ears, and open mouths. Hundreds landed on individual wolves. Stingers entered flesh. Wolves rolled across the ground in pain. Formation collapsed. Chunyun used the opening to kill one creature after another. Yet Li Wei could feel every sacrifice. Each sting killed a worker bee. Thousands of lives were disappearing through the bond. The colony that had followed him from Earth was bleeding for him. Li Wei had no time to mourn. The mountain wolf charged. He raised the oak shield and lowered his center of gravity. The impact felt like being struck by a charging vehicle. Li Wei slid backward across the farmland. His back crashed into the treehouse wall. Blood rose into his throat. The wolf attacked again. Li Wei rolled away from snapping jaws. Chun Yun placed an arrow into the corner of the beast's mouth. The poison slowed it only slightly. Li Wei attacked the front leg joint. His obsidian blade met resistance like thick rubber. The supposedly terrifying edge created only a shallow wound. The mountain wolf struck his shield. A crack appeared through the oak. Li Wei flew backward. Dark blood left his mouth. Chun Yun screamed his name. Her arrows continued. The giant wolf avoided one and ignored another. Its purple eyes recognized that Li Wei had reached his limit. The predator lowered its body. Li Wei understood the next charge could kill him. He still raised the damaged shield. The mountain wolf exploded forward. Li Wei roared for Chun Yun to fire. Tears blurred her eyes. She forced her trembling arms still. Her final energy arrow struck the wolf's rear leg. The beast barely slowed. Its claws smashed into Li Wei. The oak shield shattered. His wooden armor broke apart. Flesh opened across his shoulder. Bone became visible. Pain almost erased his consciousness. Chun Yun's scream cut through the battlefield. The wolf lunged for Li Wei's life. A red-black streak suddenly left the treehouse. It landed directly on the wound created by Chun Yun's arrow. The queen bee had entered the battle herself. Her body was larger now. Red and black markings covered a shell that gleamed almost like jade. She touched the mountain wolf for only an instant. Then she returned to Li Wei's ruined shoulder. The giant predator froze. A scream of unbearable pain erupted from its throat. The queen's mutated venom was destroying it from within. Li Wei forced his remaining arm to move. He staggered toward the rolling monster. The obsidian blade rose. One strike opened the softer belly. A second drove deeper. A third released a flood of dark blood. The Fog Mountain wolf's struggles weakened. Its dark purple eyes finally lost focus. Li Wei dropped to one knee beside the corpse. Chun Yun climbed down from the watchtower and ran to him through blood and ash. Her hands shook as she pressed bandages against his shoulder. Li Wei barely managed to lift his right hand. He told her they had won, and dawn later proved those words true. The fog rewarded their survival with rare treasures, while the queen evolved and Chun Yun's bow inherited the dead wolf's soul. When morning revealed that the mist had moved their entire shelter into an unfamiliar ancient forest, Li Wei did not collapse. He buried the wolves, rebuilt his network with bees and crows, and stood beside Chun Yun before a world they no longer recognized. Li Wei had entered the Eternal Realm as a weak beekeeper, but by surviving together he had turned one hive, one tree, and one stubborn promise into a home worth defending.